Hey guys, my name is Jordan Madrid and today I'm going to be teaching you how to make Chef David Chang's prize dish, Momofoku pork buns, coming from his restaurant, Momofoku. Well, now these buns are really popular in this restaurant, and they're basically the #1 dish in that restaurant. The restaurant's been open for about 14 years, and these pork buns have been since the start, and they've been constant ever since. Alright guys, now we're going to get into the buns, the prep of the buns, and these buns are steamed, beautifully steamed, nice, airy, beautiful buns for your pork buns. Right here we have about 1 cup and 2 tablespoons of bread flour. Here we have about 1/3 of a cup of lukewarm water, just right to the touch. Here we have, I want to say about half a teaspoon of active dry yeast. Let's make sure it's active dry yeast. Here we have 2 teaspoons of dry milk powder, instant dry milk powder, non-fat. Here we have, I want to say 1.5 tablespoons of sugar. And here we have 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking powder and baking soda mixed. That's both of them in here. Now let's get into making this. First step is to combine your water and your yeast until it's nice and dissolved. So you're going to get your water, put it inside your bowl, your yeast, and whisk this right up until your yeast is dissolved in the water. Your yeast is now nice and dissolved inside the water. You see no yeast pellets in here. It's nice and dissolved. Make sure you check in the bottom, make sure everything is nice and dissolved inside it. Second step is to add everything else. Now we're going to add, second step is put this right back in here. You're going to slowly start adding everything. Make sure you put your attachment on there. I didn't. Boom. Attachment in, locked in place. Now I'll start everything slowly. Get it on real slow. Add your flour slowly. Flour's in. Baking soda, baking powder, sugar. Lastly, your dry milk solids. Get that mixed. Let's get this out of our way here. Clean station. Let's make sure this is nice and mixed. After we're done mixing, all you want to do is take it out. Knead it a couple times. I want to say knead dough until it's smooth. Just 8 to 10 minutes, you know. Knead it real nice. Get it real flat. Pick it up. Boom. Right to the back. Make sure everything is nice and smooth. Boom. Nice and smooth. Make it into a ball. After you're done with this, you want to let it proof. Make sure get your plastic wrap. Cover this up. And every time you proof something, you always want to make sure you label it. Put it in the proofer until it doubles. You know, about, I want to say, until just double the size. I want from 30 minutes to an hour, around there. And then you're going to take it out and cut it into 1-ounce pieces. After you get done with your buns, you want to hit your pork for the pork component. Now, the pork is going to be marinated in about equal parts of salt, sugar, and about 1 tablespoon or 1 teaspoon, depending on how much the ratio is for your pork. You want to put Chinese 5 spice. Now, for this instance, I use 1/8 a cup of salt, 1/8 a cup of sugar, and about 1 teaspoon of Chinese 5 spice. You want to put this in a container or a cryovac, if you have a cryovac or something, for an hour. You want to put this in a rack at your oven at 450 for an hour, and then you're going to put it down to 250 for another hour until you touch the meat and it feels like a pillow, nice and airy. Nice and airy. So now we're going to put this in the oven, let it cook for an hour, and reduce that. Make sure you put in a timer. Reduce that to 250 right after the hour, and make sure we touch that. Make sure how it feels. Just put the meat part this way. That way I can feel it easier when I put it in the oven. Now after we're done putting your bun in the proofer and your pork in the oven for 450 for about an hour. We want to work on the other components. Now our other components are going to be 2 vegetable components and 2 sauce components. 1 sauce is optional. Now our vegetable components are going to be our quick cured cucumber, and the cucumber is going to be cured for an hour in a half and half mixture of salt and sugar as well until it releases a lot of the juices that it has in it. It's going to be nice and crunchy, as well as really flimsy. And also we're gonna have some thin sliced green onion. Put my green onion in a bath of ice water to get crunchy. Put that for about an hour and it gets nice and crunchy. Now what you want to do for your green onion to slice it thin, you want to take this off right at the tip where the nice light green part meets the dark green part. That way you have your brose here. You don't want to use a nice and little thin, the nice small one. That you want to put aside. What we basically want to do here is cut this right in the middle. Bam, just like that. Put this down, flatten it out, and cut it about 2-inch pieces. That way they're nice and small to work with. I'm going to flatten this down, and all you want to do is just move your knives through it. That way you have nice and thin pieces. You want them looking about this thin. This would be nice, really nice and thin for you. And what you also want to do with your cucumber is either take a mandolin and slice them. This is a little bit too thick for me, but you want to take a mandolin. Or what you can do is, if you have a really sharp knife, cut them right down through. Be careful. And bam, voila, nice thin pieces. Now if you can see it from here, I want to show you this. The thickness between my knife and the mandolin. The mandolin is a bit too thick for me, so I want to go with my knife cuts. Bam, right here, nice and eased out. Now we're moving on. Now we're just going to wait for this, and I'm going to talk about the components a little bit more, and we're going to put them together nice and beautifully. Now for the components of this dish, it's going to be the bun on the bottom. You're going to have a little bit of hoisin sauce. I bought store-made hoisin sauce, a company called Lee Kum Ki. We're going to put about a tablespoon in it. Just make sure it's nice and spread. Just like you spread mayo on a sandwich, you want to have it nice and spread even, nicely even spread. After that, you want to put your cured cucumber right on the bottom of that, right on the top of that, I'm sorry. Stack that like about 2 to 3 pieces on each bun, depending on how big they are. Then you want to put your scallions. You want to put your scallions on top of that. On top of that, you want to put your pork. Now, your pork, since it's going to be nice and soft, basically what you want to do is you want to transfer it with either chopstick, because the chopstick, what it does, it basically gives you even pressure. That way, if you pick it up with something else, it might want to tear on you or might break in half. So with a chopstick, it gives you even pressure to work with and nice to put down. You could also put it down with a nice offset spatula. Scoop it up right from the bottom, put it right on there. So make sure it's really nice, nicely beautiful. Now those are your components. You have 6 oh, I'm sorry about that. We have sriracha as well. Sriracha is optional. Sriracha is for those spice lovers. You know, put that right on top and just marries everything together, all the flavors. And these are your 6 components. 6th one is always optional, but it's hoisin. It's your bun, hoisin, cured cucumber, scallion, and then your pork. And there you go. You have your pork bun sandwich. Guys, now that the dough is out of the proofer, we want to roll it out this way and cut it into 1-ounce pieces. Turn on your scale. Make sure it's scaled. Make sure it's tared. And let's cut them off. Let's make sure we cut it off to about 1 ounce pieces. There you go. About just how big you want it. About this big. Don't know if you can see it. Real small. Real small. Once you've cut your pieces of dough into 1 ounce pieces, I'm sorry, you want to let them rest for about 30 minutes covered on the table. You want to let them rest for about 30 minutes. Just let them take a little breath again. Get a little oxygen in it. Nice and covered. You want to let them sit 30 minutes. And time to turn down our pork to 250 for about an hour. Just make sure that your pork again is nice. It's like a pillow almost. You want to touch it, and once you want it to spring back up, wanting to make it look really, really nice. Now that we're doing this, I'm going to set up my steaming station with parchment and make sure everything's looking nice and beautiful. Now that we're letting this rest and letting the pork go at 250 until it's nice and pillowy, I set up my steaming station. So basically all it is a pot full of water, about a quarter of the way, steaming basket, and a little bit of parchment paper. That way this doesn't get stuck to it, and a lid right on top of it. And just let the steam fill up, and you want to cook this for about 10 minutes, but I'll show you that as soon as we get to that. Now we're going to let these rest, let the steam go. We're going to let this this pork get nice and pillowy, and after it gets nice and pillowy, we have to let it rest so that we can cook it and it doesn't fall apart on us. I mean, we could cut it, I'm sorry, and it doesn't fall apart on us. So let's let this rest, all that, and we'll come back to it. Now that they're done resting, all we have to do is shape them out and steam them for about 10 minutes. So let's get these all to the side here. Make sure all your dough is nice and scraped up. Flatten it out. What you want to do is get it nice and flat. We want to fold them in half later. That way we have a little bit of pork fat here for it not to stick when you're steaming it. It'll be a little bit easier for you to handle as well. So we want to make it pretty. We want to make it a pretty big bun so you can fit everything in it. I mean, this is the perfect, like, this would be the nice size. Make sure it's nice and even all around. That way when we fold it right in half, you have a nice little taco kind of look to it. So make sure it's all unison and stuff. That way you don't have big you have it nice and even, you get me? So you just want to do this. Want to make sure everything's nice and even. Now that I rolled these out, I have 3 buns in the steamer already. So basically I'm going to show you guys what to do. I have 3 in them right now. They're going out for 10 minutes. I'm going to grab a pastry, not a pastry brush, but a savory brush. Grab a little bit of the fat from the pork. Let me show you guys the pork. This is the pork. It's going to look nice and soft. Nice and pillowy soft. It's really nice and soft. Let that sit there. Basically, I'm going to grab my brush, brush the fat off of this, and put it right on here. You want a pretty good amount of fat on it. Let me show you guys. Pretty good amount of fat. That way, when you fold it up, bam, when you fold it up, you can pull this right out. As well as it won't stick on you when you're actually putting it in the steamer. If you put it in the steamer and you just fold it up dry, it's gonna seal, and you're not gonna be able to open it right after that. And you want to be able to open it. That's the whole part of this dish. So I'm gonna continue with the rest of my buns here and let my pork cool. That way I can cut it real nice and it doesn't break apart or fall apart on me like pulled pork would. We don't want pulled pork in this dish. We want pieces of pork. Now that my pork is thoroughly cooled, I just basically wanted, since my pork has the bone still in it, I want to basically remove the bone from here. So find out where the bone's at. Bam, take it right off. Now since this is nicely cooked, I'm able to just take it right off, almost tear it off. And that's how it should be. Nicely tear. Bam, right off. So next, what you want to do is take all these out and cut it to about 2 inches. So basically what I'm going to do here is just square it off 2 inches here by ½ an inch. So I'll cut my 2 inches here, make sure this is nice and squared off. I mean, in a restaurant we wouldn't be squaring it off, but what we would be doing is essentially just cutting it to where we have as much as we can, and we wouldn't be using bone in, we'd be using bone out. So basically what I want to do is just cut this at almost, I'm going to cut it right flat, so it's almost 2 inches by ½ an inch. There you go. Nice, 1/2 inch. So you want to make them kind of look like this. These are nice, pillowy soft. And I'm grabbing it with real care because I don't want to shred it. So now that this is out of the way, I'm gonna move this out of the way. Check on my buns; they should be done about now. And I'm gonna go through the assembly with you guys. And assembly is a pretty easy part, but we gotta remember there's 6 components, with the 6th component being optional. Bun, hoisin, cucumbers, my chives or scallions. I'm sorry, scallions, and my meat, and then the sriracha on top if you want that. But I'm going to put this to the side and go through the process of putting it together with you guys. Alright guys, now that my pork is cut and my buns are steamed, nice and airy, they're really nice and soft, really nice and airy. I actually want to remind you guys that if this gets cold in the process of you making the buns or something like this, basically what you want to do is either flash them. You want to flash them in hot oil. That way they get hot again. But what you don't want to do is overcook them, because once you overcook them, they get really tough, not tender anymore. So what I want to do is show you guys how to put these together. Now what I'm going to do is just pull this out this way. I'm going to open up my hoisin sauce, my brush again, just wash this. Let's use this brush, nicely spread it like you spread a mayo in a sandwich. You want to get a nice thin layer on it, that way you really get that on there. And what you want to do next is put your cucumber and your chives. I forgot to take these out again. So we got your cucumber and we got your chives. Now these aren't big, so I'm just going to put 2 pieces down. Grab a little bit of this, make sure it's nice and drained. Get this in there. And like I said, you could either grab the pork with the chopstick. Now I'm not a master with chopsticks, so let's see how this goes. Nice and even pressure. Put them down. Put them right down. You want to make sure they're nice and even, and have kind of an open sandwich. So now that this one's made, you want to put it right on the dish. So that's where you grab your offset. Bam, right in the dish. Right in the plate. And we're going to do the same thing to these. Speed up the process. You want to open them both. Spread them both with hoisin sauce. Bam. And bam. Let this sit. Do the same process as the others. About 2 pieces, since they're not so huge. 2 pieces. This one's a little bit bigger, so I can get away with 3 pieces of that. Make sure. You want to make sure these are nice and out of the cold water. Drain them before you use them. These are nice, and the reason I like putting them in cold ice water is because they have a really good crispiness to them, as they sit in the water. So that's the big plus for those. Bam, bam. Make sure they're stacked. Let's get this down. Nice. Bam. Assembled. So let's get this plate right out in front of you. Make sure you don't get this plate dirty. That's not what you want. You want to always plate on a clean plate. Get this real nicely. Always clean your plate. And voila, finished dish. Now I'm gonna organize these a little bit better, and I'm gonna show you guys the finished product. And we also have a little bit of sriracha, but sriracha I put on the side since a lot of people don't really like the sriracha. So I'm gonna put this on the side, and I'm gonna put it in a real nice spoon for you guys. So as soon as I get this organized, get this nice and pretty, I'll show you guys the finished product. Now this is the final presentation of the dish. Make sure it's really nice and pretty. Stack them up. Make sure they're really nice and high. And this is it. Voila. All you got to do is enjoy. Thank you for watching.